Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī is a legend of a sahabi. He comes from Yemen. And he's a really beautiful person, and he's known for having the most beautiful voice. The Prophet ﷺ actually tells him, "Utita mizmara min mazamiri Dawūd." Abū Mūsā, you've been blessed because Dawūd alayhi salam, out of the prophets, had the most beautiful voice. When he would recite the Zabur that was revealed to him, the mountains and the birds would sing along with him. Everything. So the Prophet ﷺ used to say about Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī that "Utita mizmara min mazamiri Dawūd." Your voice is absolutely beautiful, stunning. Angels would come down to listen to Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī. So anyway, Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī comes from Yemen. He accepts Islam at the hands of Rasulullah ﷺ, and then he's sent to Yemen. He goes to Abyssinia. He does 2 hijras to Abyssinia. He stays in Yemen. When he comes back to meet the Prophet ﷺ, right before the Battle of Khaybar, he brings back 50 converts with him, including his siblings. Like he brings the whole squad back. And that's why in the hadith, you don't really hear any stories of Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī in this earlier period. He comes back, the Prophet ﷺ sees him, and the Prophet ﷺ loves him. And the Prophet ﷺ says, the people of the Ash'ari, they are gentle people, they're soft people. He would call all the Yemenis the people of Ash'ari, right? He would term them all after Abū Mūsā radiallahu anhu. And the Prophet ﷺ admired Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī radiallahu anhu. Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī gets older, he becomes a governor, he becomes a military commander, and he has a very interesting story. The stories of Islam are not always rosy. And there are chapters that are very bloody. And one of those chapters is the battle of, what battle? No.
Badr.
Siffin. The battle of Siffin. How many of you know the battle of Siffin? More sahabah died in the battle of Siffin than all the battles prior. And it was a disagreement between 2 companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And the story is long, and some other day, hopefully Sheikh Umair, we can talk about this one day to the students, the battle of Jamal and the battle of Siffin. It was a very sensitive time in the Ummah. There was people who were on the side of Ali radiallahu anhu. There were people who were on the side of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. Between armies were raised and battles were fought, blood was shed. Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī radiallahu anhu, he recused himself and he said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ say that when the Muslims fight amongst each other, stay silent and don't get involved in the middle of the fight. However, he's looped in at the end because he is nominated as the person to broker the peace between 2 factions. Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī, this becomes his legacy, that he becomes one of the people who's brokering the peace between 2 great nations. Anyhow, some of his advice. ما روى البيهقي من الشعب من طريق موسى بن إسحاق الطلحي قال اجتهد الأشعري قبل موته اجتهادا شديدا فقيل له لو أمسكت ورفقت بنفسك بعد الرفق. When Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī was passing away, he passed away close to the age of 70 years old. He starts, look, when he's like really old and he's about to die, he starts praying more, reading Quran more, worshiping Allah more, and he exerts himself fully. So someone was like, why don't you calm down a little bit? You're an old guy, and you're like pretty much on your deathbed. Take a rest a little. He said, إِنَّ الْخَيْلَ إِذَا أُرْسِلَتْ فَقَارَبَتْ رَأْسَ مَجَرَاهَا أَخْرَجَتْ جَمِيعَ مَا عِنْدَهَا وَالَّذِي بَقِيَ مِنْ أَجْلِي أَقَلُّ مِنْ ذَلِكَ قَالَ فَلَمْ يَزَلْ عَلَى ذَلِكَ حَتَّى مَاتَ. He says, when a person is on a horse, and the horse is galloping, and you're near the finish line, and you know you just have few more meters, few more feet to go, few more yards to go, you're running, you're at the touchdown, you have the last few minutes, He says, you floor it. He said, my life has the last few minutes left to it, last few moments left to it. I'm just flooring it so that I can get to Jannah. I can just grind to Jannah and I can focus on Jannah. And that's how he remained until he passed away. That continue striving, continue working hard, because you don't know how much of the life that you have is left. You don't know about that. Some of the Salaf, they said, when I say Salaf, what does Salaf mean?
Pious predecessors.
The pious predecessors, yes. I'm not talking about Salafis, the Salaf. Abdullah ibn Dawūd al-Khuraybi, يحكي حال من قبله. He says, كان أحدهم إذا بلغ 40 سنة طوى فراشه وكان بعضهم يحيي الليل فإذا نظر إلى الفجر قال عند الصباح يحمد القوم السراء. He said, you know, in our people, when we would hit the age of 40, what is retirement now? 65. He says, for us, retirement from the dunya was at 40. That's when we would turn towards our Allah and now focus on our akhirah. That up till the age of 40, we've built enough dunya that will last us till the end of our time. And we can't eat as much as we could eat before, drink as much as we could drink before, but we would focus on our hereafter, and that is it. Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu says, Kunna ma'a Abū Mūsā fi masirin lahu. He says, we were once with Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī radiallahu anhu, فَسَمِعَ النَّاسِ يَتَحَدَّثُونَ فَسَمِعَ فَصَاحَةً فَقَالَ مَا لِي يَا أَنَسْ هَلُمَّ فَلْنَذْكُرْ رَبَّنَا. Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī and Anas bin Malik and a group of people are traveling, and now people are talking, saying stories. Some people are, poetry, or in your equivalents, rapping, listening to music, and just enjoying their time. Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī looks at Anas bin Malik and says, Mali, Anas, what's going on? Halumma, come here. Falnadhkur Rabbana. Let's remember our Allah. Those are gold friendships. Let's talk about Allah. Let's reflect about Allah. Falnadhkur Rabbana. فإن هؤلاء يكاد أحدهم أن يفري الأديم بلسانه ثم قال لي يا أنس ما أبطأ بالناس عن الآخرة وما ثبرهم عنها قال قلت الشهوات والشيطان. He goes around and he says that, oh Anas, a lot of these people, their tongue has killed them. Their tongue has displaced them. They're saying things and they're ruining their hereafter. Oh Anas, do you know what holds people back and yanks them from Jannah? Anas bin Malik says, yeah, 2 things. Shahawat, desires, and shaitan. Qala, la. He says, no. Wallah. وَلَكُنْ عُجِّلَتْ لَهُمُ الدُّنْيَا وَأُخِّرَتِ الْآخِرَةِ وَلَوْ عَايَنُوا مَا عَدَلُوا وَمَا مَيَّلُوا. He said, no, that's not what it is. Allah has chosen that these people are to be rewarded with the dunya, and there's nothing left for them in the akhirah. That is what makes people oblivious, because they were created to enjoy the dunya temporarily and not the hereafter infinitely and ultimately. Usama bin Zuhair says, one day Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī radiallahu anhu got on the minbar and he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, ubuku, cry. فَإِن لَمْ تَبْكُوا فَتَبَاكَوْا. If you cannot cry, make your face like you're crying. Fake it. فَإِنَّ أَهْلَ النَّارِ. For the people of hell, يَبَكُونَ الدُّمُوعَ حَتَّى تَنْقَطِعَ. In hell will be so embarrassed, regretful of where they are, that they will cry and cry and cry and cry until tears no longer are exiting their eyes. ثُمَّ يَبْكُونَ الدِّمَاء. Then they will cry tears, not of water, but tears of blood. حَتَّى لَوْ أُرْسِلَتْ فِيهَا السُّفُنْ لَجَرَتْ. And they will cry so much tears of blood that wallahi, if you were to take a ship and put it into the pool that their tears have spilled, the ship would set sail. He said this would be the situation of the people of Jahannam. Learn to cry for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of a boy or a girl. They're not supposed to get you to make tears. Half of our tears are in front of Allah because of a boy or a girl. Cry in front of Allah to the love of Allah and the regret of your sins. You see, Jahannam cannot be extinguished by anything. This teardrop is what can save you from Jahannam. That's it. This teardrop is very valuable. Learn to cry out of love of Allah and out of fear of Allah. And if you can't, your heart is too hard. ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. Allah says their hearts are like stones. خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ. Allah has sealed your hearts. Cry on the fact that you cannot cry in front of Allah. And turn to Allah. Fake it. Make your face like you're crying if you can't. And slowly it will crack and tears will begin to flow from your eyes. And your heart will soften in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's so much to read. You know, there is a poem of Allāmah Iqbal where he says that in this ummah there are still some people who do fajr with the tears that they cried so much through the night that they ended up making wudu with the tears of their eyes. That they spent the night crying in front of Allah so much that their hands, their arms, and their face was filled to the point that in the morning, what need is there to do wudu? I've already done wudu with the tears from my face. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with that type of heart. From the 7 who will be shaded under Allah's throne, who are they? One of them is the one who cries, remembers Allah in their home privately, and tears shed from their eyes. Allah will give you the shade of His throne on the day of judgment. In another advice, Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī radiyallahu anhu says, إِنَّمَا أَهْلَكَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ هَذَا الدِّينَارُ وَالدِّرْهَمُ وَهُمَا مُهْلِكَاكُمْ. Abū Mūsā al-Ashʿarī radiyallahu anhu says that the people before you, this dinar, what does dinar mean?
Coin.
Gold coin. And dirham?
Silver.
Silver coin. Very good. He says this dinar and this dirham has destroyed the people of the past. This dollar and this pound, this dollar and this Bitcoin has destroyed the people of the past. And it will destroy you too. If your goal and you wake up in the morning thinking this cha-ching, and you go to sleep thinking money and that's all you care about, when you're trying to get married and you think about how much does he make or how much does she make, and that's what's on your mind, and that's your goal and focus, your priorities are wrong. The dunya is, when you see every car drive by and your heart starts yearning, I wish I had that car. When you see every shoe and you walk in the mall and your heart is desiring, people, I cannot recall in recent history that I have ever walked through a mall in this city just for the sake of walking through a mall. Any country I've visited, people always come and tell me, let's go visit the mall. What am I going to see in the mall? I never walk around. Why? Because it makes the heart yearn for the dunya more. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu yuhyi wa yumiitu wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. A person reads this in the mall. That's the dua for the mall. There's a dua for the mall, against the mall. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ahabbul bilad ila Allah masajid. The most beloved pieces of land to Allah is the masjid. وَأَبْغَضُ الْبِلَادِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَسْوَاقٌ. And the place Allah hates and despises the most on the earth are the malls. A hadith, I'm not capping. This is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that Allah despises because of the sins that happen. Because of the desire of the dunya that comes, you're literally on display. You're watching, you say, oh my God, that's Gucci. You can barely afford the parking ticket. Right? They picked you up because you don't drive. Right? And you're out there looking at Gucci and thinking to yourself that I want Gucci or I want this or that. You can't, you don't have a bank account. You don't have a credit card. You guys don't have anything. And you guys want all of these things. The dunya, the love of dunya, as young as you are, you're taught to love the dunya. You are nurtured with the love of the dunya. And you're addicted to it. And there's a strong desire for it. May Allah remove the love of the dunya from our hearts. Final hadith. One day, Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu was coming from Bahrain. وافوا صلاة الفجر مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Prayed salah with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. فلما صلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم انصرف. When the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم prayed Fajr, turns around, فَتَعَرَّضُوا لَهُ. He saw the whole masjid is full today. فَتَبَسَّمَ. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم starts to smile. And he says, أَظُنُّكُمْ سَمِعْتُمْ أَنَّ أَبَا عُبَيْدَ قَدِمَ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ. I think y'all heard that Abu Ubaidah brought something from Bahrain. Meaning he brought some wealth. Now they know that the Prophet is generous, he's not going to keep, he's going to distribute. When they know, they know the type of man the Prophet ﷺ is. That it came at Fajr, before the sun rises, that wealth will be distributed. They're not waiting till Dhuhr, Asr, sucking up here, there. They know that if we don't make it at Fajr, by the time the sun rises, this man is so honest, he will not keep any dunya with him. When the Prophet ﷺ is about to pass away, he's fainting, he's getting up, and he's saying, how much money is left at home? He says, Ya Rasulullah, some gold coins, tasaddaqu, give it all in charity. You're passing away, you have a daughter, you have grandchildren, you have wives. No, my Allah is my sustainer and my maintainer and the one who looks after me. He lived by it. So masjid is full. Abu Ubaidah brings some wealth from Bahrain. And the Prophet smiles and says, looks like y'all heard that there's some, that today we're going to have dinner. We're going to have some, someone's going to, so you guys can get some money. And the Sahaba weren't cappers. They didn't go like, no, Ya Rasulullah, we came to pray Fajr. Money what? Money who? We didn't even know there would be money. Sahaba were honest people. They said, Ajal. Yeah. We heard about this. The Prophet says, فَأَبْشِرُوا. He says, glad tidings, وَأَمِّنُوا مَا يَسُرُّكُمْ. Take what pleases you. فَوَاللَّهِ مَا الْفَقْرَ أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ. I swear by Allah, I'm not scared that you will be poor. وَلَكِنِّي أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ أَن تُبْسَطَ الدُّنْيَا. But I'm scared that you will have too much dunya. كَمَا بُسِطَتْ عَلَى مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. The way the people before you had a lot of dunya. فَتَنَافَسُوهَا كَمَا تَنَافَسُوهَا. They fought for it and competed for it the way you all will compete for this dunya. وَتُهْلِكَكُمْ كَمَا أَهْلَكَتْهُمْ. It will destroy you the way it destroyed them. And that is enough of a reflection of this dunya and the state of our iman and our faith. That this purpose of this dunya is just so that we can get the hereafter. The purpose of this dunya is not luxury. It's not, you can never be on top. Elon Musk, how much did he lose now? 200 billion or something? Does that make sense? Dunya he got, and dunya got wiped away. Where's all the, who was the billionaire or the millionaire in the 19th century? Who knows? 18th century, who knows? 17th century, who knows? Who was the richest man 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Who knows? This dunya does not remain in anyone's hands. Your house is on a land or a piece of place, so many before you lived into it, and so many after you will live into it as well. The schools you've gone to, UTD, how many bright minds walked into our college? Bright minds walked through it and walked out, became millionaires, and today they're unknown. Today they're under the ground. Wallahi, you know, our parents, they're very big on this. Mujhe Pakistan mein jaakar ghar banana hai. I have to make a house in Pakistan. And they'll go and they'll build all these properties for what? So that when they die, there is an uncle over there that snatches it, or there are children here that are fighting over it. The person goes over there. There's hundreds of stories of this. People go over there. Their parents build empires for them over there. They go over there. Someone snatches it. Fight happens. The kid gets killed. The family gets robbed. The family gets hurt. You literally set up the net of destruction for your family. I saw one family one time. They said, we are making, 300 a year or something combined income, mashallah. They said, we're saving for our child's marriage. I said, what is your child studying? She's very smart. She's becoming an engineer. I said, is she going to marry a person who has a GED? He said, no, she's going to marry someone, who's educated. And I said, okay, so your daughter is going to make over 150K. Her husband is going to make probably 150, 200K. You guys make 300K. What are you saving up for? Generational wealth. Now this dollar is going down. What generational wealth? The Turkish lira 5 years ago was $1. When I bought these hats, it was $1 to 4 lira, 3.5. Today, what is it?
18.
This came from Turkey, that's why. What will you do tomorrow if you wake up and this dollar has no value? You have banked your youth, your best days, your energy, your mind, everything, because they said this is valuable. Tomorrow, if they say the value went down, you have to work harder not to bring the value up. When I was in South Africa, Zimbabwe went through a financial crisis. To buy bread, you needed $1 million Zimbabwe dollars, because the currency was so devalued that the silver lining on the bill was worth more than the bill itself. So people were ripping the lining out of the bill. If you wanted to buy bread, you had to take bags full of money to go buy it. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets records straight. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the love of the dunya from our hearts. Subhanakallah wa bihamdihi wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.